This next this is where I put the other spot for Live and Let Die. So the next three films are Live and Let Die, License to Kill, and The Man with the Golden Gun, in that order. And the reason I like this as another placement for Live and Let Die is because, for a number of reasons. One, you don't have to deal with the Coral issue at all. I mean, Coral Jr. becomes Coral's son, and there's a common theme with Live and Let Die and License to Kill. There's the Caribbean and drug smuggling, but also it's closer to The Man with the Golden Gun with J.W. Pepper. And then the other issue is that because we have Brown with most of these other films, if Live and Let Die isn't in there, it doesn't break up the Brown films. But if you do put it in, it's okay because Miles is briefly there. He's only at the beginning, and there's no cue. So there really isn't any snags in there. I call License to Kill and The Man with the Golden Gun the standalones, because really the enemy there's really no connection. They're kind of like, just like I said, standalones. Scaramanga is his own guy, and Franz is his own guy. I think that's his name. Anyways, Sanchez. And so you have Franz Sanchez, and then you have Francisco Scaramanga. So it's kind of, those names are very similar. One of the continuity scenes is when Leiter's bride mentions, or she tries to give Bond the garter, and Bond gets upset, and Leiter says he was married once. The other thing we have to take into account too is all Leiter films have to come before License to Kill because he loses his leg there. That's another issue. And also, Leiter is Hedison in both License to Kill and Live and Let Die, so that's kind of a nice placement too. In regards to Kananga and then Scaramanga, not knowing whether or not they are Spectre agents in the movie Spectre, it's too vague right now. But as far as these go, pretty much, I believe that's about it for them. I do, once again, and the other thing is that Miles closes these out. Miles will begin them, and Miles will close them out. And Brown is in the middle. And that shows that they're kind of like, they're the same M also. But whether or not we put Live and Let Die or in this, or at the beginning between Dr. No and Spectre, I like them both. So we'll find out. One of these days I'll decide which one I think's better. Moving on, and I'll try and knock this one out really quick too, is the final four are Brosnans. Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. And they fit all well together. Bond here seems to be an older Bond, and the theme of this. So we started out with, Spectre and Blofeld, and then we moved to the Russians, and then we have the standalones, and then we have these final ones, and the final ones are post-Cold War. So we deal with China and North Korea and, what is it? I believe it's Azerbaijan they go to, and the world is not enough. But GoldenEye, a couple reasons GoldenEye gives evidence for a single James Bond is because Bond wouldn't be angry at a guy 10 years earlier, i.e. Alec Trevelyan, 006, and then him be a different guy, and them not have that same relationship. Again, once again, Alec talks about his parents' death by a climbing accident, which is what Swan and Bond talk about in Spectre. Barbara Maudsley is the new M here, the female M. She doesn't have any connections with Daniel Craig's M, other than being the same actress. Alec mentions Bond and him being orphans. Natalia Simonova talks about his distance. In regards to there's pain there, and she kind of brings it out, and then Alec mentions the women, the way that he drinks to drown the deaths of the women that he's not rescued. So we see there's kind of a, that continuing thing that, referring to Tracy, and now we can refer it to Vesper. Then Tomorrow Never Dies. I showed in the earlier videos that in 1997 you can't have one single M, female M. Otherwise, if you do, it conflicts with the 1997, which is when Tomorrow Never Dies happened. Carver's wife mentions that, did you leave me because you got too close, Bond? And he admits to it, yes. Getting too close once again, he began to fall in love with her, and he didn't want her to die, so he left. There's that haunting pain still with him. And we come to The World Is Not Enough, and the obvious connection here is the title of the film, which connects him with Lazenby, because in Omis, Lazenby says that the family crest, or the heraldic officer tells him that his crest is the world is not enough, and his heraldic crest. And Bond mentions that in this film, and actually Elektra does, and Bond says, it's my family motto. She's foolish sentiment, and he says it's my family motto. Then she twice asks if he pries into his love life, his past love life, if he's ever loved. 009 is mentioned again. This time 009 is alive. I believe this 009 is not the same as the previous 009, because that 009 had died already. Again, that theory that I have about those agents, that agent is never named. So it's a continuing recycling code name, and that's why they call it 009 and no name. Whereas Bill Fairbanks in The Man with the Golden Gun, which I forgot to talk about, he is actually named, and he's the one that jumps out of the plane with Bond at the beginning of The Living Daylights. That's why you have to have The Living Daylights before The Man with the Golden Gun. The Man with the Golden Gun has to come after it. meets Q, and he goes into the room with all the replicas, or the relics, the old relics he calls them, not replicas. And you see in that room, you see the rope, the jet wings, and the alligator disguise, all from Octopussy. Then you see the jetpack from Thunderball, the spike shoe from Russia with Love, and there's a backpack on the back wall, and I'm not sure what that's from. It could be from For Your Eyes Only, or for when he climbed the cliff, or it could be from The Living Daylights. I think Timothy Dalton's Bond had a backpack in there. Regardless, at the end of that scene, John Cleese, gives him a watch, and he tells him, he says, "This is your 20th watch, try not and break it." That is a reference to that Pierce's Bond is all the other Bonds. Why do I say that? Because that is the 20th film that he's in. Die Another Day is the 20th film. It's a reference to the film number. So Pierce is Connery, Lazenby, Moore, and Dalton. And if all those are the same, each one of them has ties to one another, but we know that there's ties to Craig through Moore and Brosnan. Some other things to just close this all up with are the reason the order of the films for Brosnan are the way they are is mainly because of Q, where in The World Is Not Enough, R is introduced and Q is lowered, being symbolic of him retiring. And then in Die Another Day, R becomes the new Q. Also, there's Bill Tanner. He's the chief of staff. The chief of staff is also in The Man with the Golden Gun, but he's not named Bill Tanner until For Your Eyes Only. And then he shows up in Brosnan's films, Goldeneye and The World Is Not Enough. Then there's the deputy chief of staff, Charles Robinson, who is in Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. There's the CIA agent Jack Wade, who is in Goldeneye and Tomorrow Never Dies. And then finally, those are all the continuity characters, but finally we have just Barbara Maudsley as M. And the reason she's, I mentioned this already, but the reason she is not the same M as Craig's M, Olivia Mansfield, is because she treats Brosnan really poorly. In fact, she even says, after he comes back from being imprisoned by the North Koreans, "You've made yourself useful again." And she just really dislikes him and has a bad feeling about him, or a bad treatment of him. In fact, if you remember during Goldeneye, the very beginning, she calls him a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War. She despises him. But, well, that's it for all the chronology.